And when it got up to the sixth center and that crunchy noise started, boom, it was like a bolt of electricity. I don't know how to describe it. It felt like what I imagine being struck by lightning feels like.
Freaked me out. I woke up in my bed, frozen, paralyzed, could not move, scared the shit out of me, for lack of a better word. And I thought, I was raised a Christian, so I thought it was the devil. Like, I thought something was happening.
And then all of a sudden I was standing up and I look and I see my body in the bed, tucked in, eye mask. And I was like, well, that's weird.
There's like this moment where you go again from watching these videos to like, oh my gosh, they're telling the truth.
I could feel the floor, my feet, like everything is so tactile. That it sounds weird or wrong or something, but it's not like, you really have a body, you really
There's
are
physicality to it.
things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so today we have Brooke on the podcast. She had an OBE, and she is an everyday person. I tried to find someone like this, someone who wasn't starting a course, not that there's anything wrong with that or trying to teach it, but just an everyday person, because I think this happens to a lot more people. I see it in the comments, and when it happens, it's wild. And so I wanted to bring someone on like that. And it was really fun watching her kind of go through the stories again and kind of laugh at herself at some of the things she did. And she didn't even know the terms for these things. She wasn't like looking to be a spiritual person. So I really enjoyed speaking with her. I think you guys are going to love this conversation. And yeah, so if you've been here for a while, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. You're getting me one step closer to doing this full time. If you're new, please consider subscribing and or leave me a like and a comment. It's free and it helps out tremendously. So without further ado, let's get on with it.
I'm barely into it, I would say. Just a curious person. I wasn't even planning on starting a podcast this year. It just kind of happened. I was wondering if I could get someone on for an NDE because I was obsessed with those videos. I was like, you know what? I wonder if I can get someone on. And so I tried it one day. My career changed, so I had the time to do it. And I don't know. I honestly started reaching out to people in Facebook groups. I got someone to say yes. Same thing. I posted it. The second one kind of blew up, and then next thing you know, like people were asking to be on the show, and then I was like, okay, well, sure, we can do it.
Awesome. I love it.
Very similar.
I mean, I think that's what's happening is that people are starting to open up and share their stories and realize that they're not alone and that like this is actually what it's all about, that we've been taught to think in a way that I think is not what it really is. And so now people are starting to realize, hey, but yeah, I had something like that happen, or, you know, I'm interested in that. I'm curious, have you had an NDE or you're just interested in it?
So I've had an out-of-body experience, which was, I would say, definitely the start where, I wouldn't say it's a start, like you said, right? I mean, there was things that happened prior to that. I had a portal like open up in my head after like 6 months of meditating. I was like, what the heck? I was laying down in bed. That was technically the very first thing that happened for me. And I was with my wife and she was asleep. I was just kind of sitting there and I was like closing my eyes and I saw green. It was like the first time I really saw a color and I was like, huh. And it was like kind of floating around. I was like, all right, well, that's interesting. And then it turned purple. And I remember I was very calm. It wasn't weirding me out, but it was definitely like, And then it turned red, and then it turned blue, and then it just started going faster and faster. And then the next thing I knew, this portal opened up, literally like I'm watching a television or like I'm looking at the screen right now. Mm-hmm. A perfect portal in the middle of blackness in my head. And I remember being like, what is that? Yeah. And it was kind of cliche what it was. It was like meadows and a blue sky. Like it was just kind of funny what it was. But I remember I got really excited at that point because like, okay, I'm not making this up. And then I think my excitement shut it down because then it went away. Like it disappeared. But after that, I started really being like, okay, like meditation, it's not just to calm you down. Like there's things that can happen. And it really was that kept me going. And then I found from NDEs, I went to OBEs and I found out that people could leave their bodies. And I was like, what are you talking about? That sounds insane, but I love it. I was very curious. And yeah, I kept seeing comments of like, I do this all the time. And I was like, okay, what is going on? And I found the term, sleep paralysis. And that is what kind of was like, oh, that happened to me when I was in high school. It was a traumatic event for me. It happened my senior year, freaked me out. I woke up in my bed, frozen, paralyzed, could not move, scared the shit out of me, for lack of a better word. And I thought, I was raised a Christian, so I thought it was the devil. Like I thought something was happening. Called my friend when he like prayed for me, and then it never happened again. And then I went to college, right? And like years and years and years, it was like 2022 when I found that term, and I was like, oh, that's what happened to me. That was sleep paralysis. And the guy that I learned from, Darius, which I think you are also,
Yeah.
he said it was the first time I heard someone say that if you do that, you're very close to being out of your body. I was like, okay, then I must be able to somewhat do this. So I just said, fuck it, basically. And I bought the, I bought the course. I feel like most viewers probably who watch this, I felt like, okay, this sounds insane. However, there seems to be thousands of people who think they can do it because it wasn't just him. I said I saw it on Mind Valley, and I kept seeing it. I was like, okay, I'm either gonna lose out on $200 or whatever it was, and it's not real, or what if this changes your life? So I just tried it. I didn't do it exactly how he said. Like I think it was more just the knowledge of it that allowed me to do it. But more or less, he says that if you wake up from a dream and you remember that you're dreaming, you're very close to that state. And so I tried it for months, Brooke. It wasn't like first time. Like I was trying it, always fell asleep. I was like, dang it. I would fall asleep, fall asleep, fall asleep. And then one time I was trying it, fell asleep, but woke up probably around 4 a.m. And I remembered I was in a dream. And I was like, okay, he says we're close. Like I walked downstairs, sat down on my couch, and I just kept saying, mind awake, body asleep. Mind awake, body asleep. I just kept repeating that like a mantra, kind of just kept saying it, kept saying. And I just want to say one thing before this. I thought I hit a vibrational state before. No. Because this hit me like
like an
like something.
earthquake, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, like I'd never experienced before, and I was like, oh my gosh. The viewers are probably like annoyed because I've said this story a bunch of times, but it was crazy, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is what they're talking about. Felt myself floating above my body. By the time I had the courage to open my eyes, because I was a scaredy cat, I was like scared. I was like, oh gosh, this is scary. I was above a house in like a playground, and there was like houses that looked kind of like Greece a little bit to me. So I was kind of in a almost lucid dream, but I remember like looking at my, like, and doing this and like, whoa, because I was just trying to do it. And I did fly to those houses for a little bit, but it wasn't very long. It was like pretty quick, the whole thing. But when I woke up on my couch, I remember being like, oh my God, I texted one of my buddies who I told I was like trying to do it. And then I'll save everyone but it happened again a second time. That time I was in a cabin. So I've never popped out and like turned around and saw my body. So I want to do that. That's what I'm gunning for. But then I had 2 kids, and it's been hectic for me not getting sleep. But we're kind of getting to that point where I feel like I can try again.
yeah.
So that's my journey. So that's kind of like,
Yeah,
that's when I went like, this is real. This is real. I may not have popped out and saw myself, but no one can take that away from me. I felt that experience. And that is exactly what my channel is about. It's like we can all read books, and you can hear people like us, and you could be like, okay, this sounds interesting. But like, I get comments all the time. It's like, show me the proof. Show me the proof. I'm like, dude, what can I tell you that's good that you're going to prove it? Go try it. And then once you do it, you will know.
You'll know.
And that's what it is. You have to have your own experience.
And it's unmistakable. It's like, I mean, I'll tell you my story. Like, the things that have happened to me every time, I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not someone that like goes looking, and then so I kind of know it. Things hit me, and I'm like, what was that?
Yeah.
And then like the out of body happened to me, and then I found Darius, because I was like, that was not a dream. That, and I did see my body and everything. So, but it's like things happen to me. I'm sort of like do things kind of opposite of what other people do, where they go looking, and my soul or whatever is like, we're just give her this thing, and then she'll be surprised enough to do something with it.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so let's take me back, because I know you had a Kundalini experience, right? Which for people who don't know, at least to best of my knowledge, please correct me, but it is a quite physical experience.
Yeah.
It could be sometimes an energy that rises from your chakras, right? It comes up your spine into your, like, I've heard different stories, but what I do know is that it's extreme, it's physical. Sometimes it can last weeks. Sometimes it can last months. I've heard people who've been, I've heard people who are like so blown away by its power, if you will. Like maybe they weren't ready to have it awaken, that they were like crying / depressed / like it felt so good it hurt. Is how they described it. And I was like, wow.
I've had
That's crazy.
different. So when it happened to me, again, I didn't even know. I never even heard the word Kundalini. So I was like super surprised. But what happened to me was I went to. It was like right before COVID, and I wanted to make a change. Now I sell my art as fine art, but I was doing photography for hire, like working with companies doing their social media content. And I really wanted to sell my art. I had sold some, but I really wanted to make this change. But I don't know, I didn't know really how to do it. So at some point, one day I saw a video from Dr. Joe Dispenza. I didn't know who he was, but it was all about rewiring your brain. And he's like, it's never too late, even if you're older or whatever. And I was like, ooh, I need that. And so I watched a couple episodes. He had a thing called Rewired. It was like a series of videos. So I watched them. And then I bought his book, You Are the Placebo. And he talks about, like, he talks about basically, the placebo effect. And to me, it was really interesting. I never meditated before. I hadn't done any of these things, but I did have, mentioned, like I had seen a healer once a couple of years before who like was able to sort of look inside my body, and I had a slip disc, and he was like, oh, this is the message from your back. And then all of a sudden my whole back like realigned. So that was the first thing that actually got me to be like, oh my God, what? I was told I would have to have surgery, all this stuff. And he just was able to look at it, and I received a message. So that was the beginning. And then a little bit after that, like I found the Seth books. I started to listen to some things. And then, so Dr. Joe, so I was starting to open up, and I read that book, but it's more like scientific and, practical. It
Definitely.
talks about how your brain and body work together. And I already knew a little bit that your body could make some shifts. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then he recommended meditating. And I was like, okay. And so I bought his Blessing of the Energy Centers. I don't know how familiar you are. So he has tons of meditations, but he has this series called The Blessing of the Energy Centers. And you basically focus on the chakras. He calls them energy centers to he wants to keep everything neutral, right? So that you don't bring in any other ideas, like whatever religion or whatever you might be. So you focus on each one, and you focus on inside your body and outside your body, inside, outside. And you sort of put information into each center, basically just give it like love. Or a lot of people use those for health, like to heal themselves. And I didn't have any health issues at that time, but just like this idea, I don't know, I just really I bought the first one. I really liked it. And I kept doing it. And then he says to sort of graduate to the next one. And so I graduated. And it's funny. So he has a breath that's like a Kundalini breath. Now I know what that is, but I wasn't even doing the breath. I was just doing the first like beginner meditations. So I'm just in this, like, I want to rewire my brain and like be better and do like more of what I love in life. And I'm not looking for like a body thing. I don't know, but I'm enjoying the feeling of these meditations. I'm feeling better, lighter, calmer. And so I move on to the blessing number 2. And the second one is a little different. I mean, you still do all the centers, but when you get up, so there's different sounds, and like there's singing, there's like a lot of sounds. And when you get up to the pineal, or you can call it the third eye, but he focuses on the pineal gland, like he has you focus sort of in the head. And when it got up to there, the first time I did it, I heard there was like this weird sound, and I was like, irritated. I was like almost mad. I was like, why would you put this sound here? I like hated this sound. I can't even describe it. I was like so angry. It like ruined the meditation for me. And I finished it, and I thought, well, I'm never doing that one again. That's stupid, right? And then like a couple weeks later, I sit down to do my morning meditation, and I just have this overwhelming sense of like, do that one. And because I'm like, Dr. Joe talks about like, the whole idea of meditation is to sort of take control over your mind. Like you're not letting some outside thing bother you. So I was like, I'm doing that meditation. I'm not letting some noise bother me, right? And I just had this strong feeling. And so I put on that meditation. It started right away. I could feel there was like this energy, in my root chakra, like it was like strong, and I could feel it building, rising. And when it got up to the 6th center and that crunchy noise started, boom, it was like a bolt of electricity. I don't know how to describe it. It felt like what I imagine being struck by lightning feels like. It hit the top of my head. It went clearly like through the center column. My whole body was like convulsing. I mean, but it went through very quickly. Like I've heard stories about people where it kind of stops and veers off and it's painful. It wasn't like that for me. I wouldn't say, I don't know, painful or not. It's just so fast and so strong. And it just went shoop. And then, I heard myself, like, I had the headphones on. I heard myself like, whoa, whoa. Like, I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden, before I could really think about it, I was like in nothing and like in just blackness. And then I could see everybody I've ever known my whole life come towards me. And I knew it was everybody. Like, it's such an interesting thing. I've had so many meditations since, but it's like you have a knowing, like I knew what it was. And then I could start to see people. I saw like my family, friends, and I had, when I say a feeling of like bliss or whatever they say, like nirvana, like something like I'd never felt. And it's funny because when I started the Dr. Joe stuff, I was pretty depressed because I really wanted this change. And I had trouble too in the meditations he talks about. Feel the love for life. Like I couldn't feel anything. I had to think of like my mom's dog that died years before. It's like the only thing I could think of, right? And so for me to have this ecstasy feeling, like I know that it wasn't something that I was already feeling. I couldn't have come up with this feeling if I tried, right? And it was just like, I could see everybody, they were coming towards me and I started to like hug everybody and I was crying like tears of joy. And when they say unconditional love, this was the first time I ever connected for real because it wasn't, you see your family and you love them, but remember when they were annoying or whatever, there was no, but remember when you were this or there was no bad, there was nothing but pure love. And so I saw all of them were hugging. And then I started to see people that I know I don't like, people that I've had fights with that I don't talk to. And I would see them and look at them and be like, remember when we pretended not to like each other? That was hilarious. Like we would hug and I felt that same unconditional love that I felt for my mom. It didn't matter the person that I hated, but in this experience, and I could feel it, I felt the same genuine love. And it was like, we both thought it was hilarious when we like acted it out, like we pretended like we hated each other. And it just kept going. And then eventually that stopped and the meditation stopped and I opened my eyes and I remember I was wearing a pink like sweatshirt, a hoodie, and it was just drenched with like I cried so many tears of joy. I could like wring it out. It was so wet from crying. Wow. I just remember I was like, what is happening to me? Like I had no idea. And I was never someone that was like, oh, I just love everybody. Like I never.
Yeah, I feel that. Like you're being 100% authentic right now. You could just tell. Yeah.
I mean, because it was like, it really surprised me. I had no idea what was going on. And then for the next 3 days, so for me, it was 3 days, I walked around in a state of ecstasy. Like it felt like better than any drugs I've ever taken. Like, and it just kept lasting. And I just went around everywhere with like this huge smile. And the one thing I remember the most, there's a grocery store in my neighborhood that, before this experience, I thought it was like, just gross and depressing in there. And I always used to avoid going there, but it was the only like main grocery store. So sometimes you got to go, right? And so I went in during this experience, like while I was in this ecstatic 3 days of bliss. And I went in, I remember standing in line, waiting for the cash, like waiting for my turn. And I'm like, there's like homeless people. It's like people that I would never normally like want to hang out with, right? And I had this like wave of ecstasy just wash over me and I could see that I was connected to everyone in this market. I could see like a web of electricity or something connecting us all. And it felt amazing. And I was just felt that all this, like, I'm in love with everybody in here. Oh my God, this is amazing. Like I just remember I had this huge smile and I got up to the cashier and I'm thinking, oh my God, do I look high? Like, is she just going to think I'm high? Right? Cause I was like, hi, I'm like so happy. That's all I remember. And then it's so funny because ever since then, that grocery store now, I don't feel like it used to hold a feeling of like depression. Like I used to be like, oh, I gotta go in there. And now it's like, it's fine. It's just normal. And it's so, I don't know. And then so what's interesting, after the third day, I sort of went back to normal. And then I got really depressed. I kept trying to make it happen again. And then because I was forcing it, it didn't happen. And for like a couple months, I got like really depressed, like, oh my God, it's never going to happen again. I thought it would last forever. And then I sat myself down one day and I had a little bit of a talking to. I'm like, okay, Brooke, if it never happens again, that's okay. Like it happens. You have the memory of it and you can always like touch base with it. And then once I realized that was true, I had so many other, like with the Dr. Joe meditations, I had so many amazing like mystical experiences, like you could call it like DMT, like you release my understanding of his meditations that they're designed to sort of release your own DMT. And so I had amazing experiences, not necessarily that, type of like that one specifically, but like where I connected to other things out in the universe or whatever. And connected to my body, could hear my body talking to me a lot. Then I learned how to do like certain healing things for myself. And so that was like, and only years later did someone even say like, oh, that's a Kundalini. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I don't even know. I don't know what, I don't really care what things are called, but I know that's like a term that people are familiar with. And so it's my understanding that that's what it was. I mean, it was just amazing. And that was definitely changed my perspective about a lot of it. I got along a lot better with my family, felt a lot happier. I was depressed before, after that, after I realized, it sort of snapped myself out of that funk. I started selling my art. I did all this stuff after that was really helpful and amazing. So yeah, that was that.
Well, how incredible is that? I mean, again, authentic. I can tell. You're just telling the story, and it made me smile. We both were laughing there because it's like, it is crazy that it's a physical experience. I think that blew my mind more than anything. When I used to hear about spirituality or meditation or any of these things, like you see the drawings, right, of like the yogi sitting there with the chakras, and you see the light going. You see these things, but you don't think it's a real physical thing. And when it happens to you, it is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
Like
unmistakable.
I've never experienced. Yeah, unmistakable is a good word.
Like I don't know. We try to tell someone who doesn't believe this, or like when I say that it felt like I got struck by lightning, I mean, it was such a powerful energy that moved, and it moved with purpose. You know what I'm saying? It didn't just blah, blah, blah. It knew exactly where it was going. I don't know how else to describe it, but it had a trajectory and it understood. And I was, at that point, once it started, like I was like out of control. I was not in control of that. Like I couldn't do that to myself if I tried. I wouldn't even, believe me, I tried after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. Okay, so that absolutely changed your perspective, right? Now you're past the depression of it. And that's funny, I've heard that before, so you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have these experiences, whether it's NDEs or whatever, right? They wish they could go back because it's such a beautiful, I mean, for a lot of people, it's a monumental moment in their life. It is like a way more intense than anything else they've ever experienced.
Yeah.
So you want
And
that
I would
again.
say that, like, to people that are having these experiences or want to have them, like, I think it's really important, like what happened to me, how I got so high, let's say, and then I sort of came down. But what I realized, it took me a while to realize, life is not like I think I used to think that like I was going to have some moment in my life that would like solve all my problems. But that's not really how it works. It's like you have different moments, but every time you let yourself rise, you're still sort of, now you're at a new level. Like what I let myself understand is it happened, and now I have this reference and this understanding that I didn't have before. So then once I let myself understand that, my life did get better. Am I walking around feeling like I'm on ecstasy? No. But But day-to-day life did get more ecstatic and beautiful, just in a slightly different tone or something like that. So it's important, I think, to realize it's okay. You can have some highs and you don't have to go so low. Like what happened to me. I wish I had heard someone say that. Like, it's okay if it tapers off. You're still there. You still have access to that experience. It doesn't have to go like low.
You change your perspective, right? And
Yeah.
it's hard to, once your perspective change, you don't go back. I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
no
you
one can
can't go
take that
back.
experience away. Yeah. So you are a different
Exactly.
person.
Yeah.
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 I wonder, have you heard of other people having those kind of experiences with Joe's meditations? Like, is that common to,
Yeah, well, I know that people have, yeah, his experiences lead to a lot of, well, his big thing, I had heard a lot of stories, like when I started to find, let's read his books and stuff, I went on his YouTube and he has testimonials, and a lot of people have, they mostly focus on healing. A lot of people have like terminal cancer and stuff, and then the doctors can't do anything, so they turn to something like him. And so they have stories of they had this like horrible illness and then now it's gone. So I had heard a lot of stories like that, and then I have heard since I have a friend that actually had gone to one of his retreats and had an out of body in his retreat. So he does do, like, it does lead to that. And he does talk about that you have DMT, you already have it in your brain and you can release your own. He basically says, like in the You Are the Placebo book, it's like you have your own sort of pharmaceutical, like you have your own pharmacy in your brain, and you're always the one releasing it. You're taking a pill, you think the pill is doing it, but really what you're doing is saying, I want, this pill is going to make me better. And so the brain goes, what do we need? So the brain is the one that's doing it. You think it's like the external. But he says, no, it's you commanding yourself. It doesn't, that's why a placebo pill or whatever will work, because it's just you. You already have the chemicals in your brain. So people do have all kinds of experiences, including healing, including like mystical Kundalini. He doesn't use those words. So I think plenty of people have like ecstatic. And I think I've seen a video of people doing, usually they do the breath and that's what brings it on. I hadn't even graduated to like the breath yet. My
yeah.
body was just ready. Apparently it was like, we don't need the breath. I'm happy that it didn't happen to me with the breath, because I think I'm the kind of person that if it happened to me with the breath, I would have been like, it's the breath, instead of, it really is just you. That's what I've learned through all of these experiences, that you're the one doing it. You don't really need a breath or even a meditation. You could have I've heard of people having Kundalini, like just like they fall down or something, like things happen spontaneously. So yeah, so I think for me, knowing myself knowing my higher self, knowing myself, it's like, no, she has to have it before the breath, otherwise she's going to lean on the breath.
Yeah. And so many of us do, right? We're so hung up on the process. I told you
Mhm.
about my OBE. It's the same thing. I didn't follow it to a T. And again, people comment, they want to know the process.
Yeah.
I understand, because you did a process, I did a process. There's something to that, I guess. But I think it's more that it was like accepting that it's real, that it can happen. Like, I think that was more the reason that I had my experience than the process, because I did the
Yeah.
process, I fell asleep, and I kind of did my own process. I went downstairs and I was like, like I don't know. It's interesting. So I love how you put
Yeah.
that.
Well, I
I love
think
how you
the
put that.
process sometimes, like for me, I think the meditation was helpful because it gets you to focus in a different way. Like most people, oh, I got an email, I got a this, I got a that, blah, blah, blah. They're looking at all this external stuff. They're never focusing in. But when you learn to sit with yourself, and I'm glad I started with Dr. Joe as far as meditating, because he really describes, like for anyone that's interested, I would recommend, he has like online courses that you have to buy, but it's really helpful because he really describes what the meditations are doing. And he talks about that sort of, you focus inside your body and outside, that there's an energetic, it's your energy, you're connecting with the quantum field, and it trains your brain and body to understand you're bringing in possibilities. You're really not just this. he has you like sort of melt into the field or into the nothing. And I think that being able to, however you get to that place where you can train your brain to stop fixating on the outside things and start just being quiet, listening, being with the body, being with your own feels, your own energy, that I think will bring on out of body, Kundalini, whatever kind of awakening experiences. It's not really, I don't think it matters which process. And also, I wanted like the idea that second meditation irritated me so much the first time. For me, at least, sometimes when something bothers me so much, that's the thing that that's the important thing to pay attention to. So I would also say to people, like, if there's something that's sort of riling you up, like there's something there, right? So don't necessarily shy away from it. I mean, I wasn't ready the first time, but it sparked something. And then when you get an impulse, follow it, right? It's telling you something. But again, you have to get quiet in order to learn this is my true impulse versus I'm stressed out and I'm trying to follow what the outside is saying. So that's where I think processes can help. It's just getting you to focus. And then I think your soul or your higher self, whatever you want to call it, will take care of the rest. You don't have to do anything.
It's a good point. Yeah, the process is definitely helpful. But you're saying that you don't technically need anything. You are the machine. You are the chemical factory, right? You are. You are.
You are.
You are. It's you. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So I know you had an out of body. So let's maybe take me to that. So now you've had this experience, definitely changed your perspective. You're in your journey, right? But talk to me about this out of body experience.
Okay, so I had no idea. I'd never heard of an out of body experience. I didn't know this was something that could happen. And that night, so I had gone to a bridal shower. This is where the crystal comes in, because I'm not a big like crystal person. Although I had a couple. One aside, I had bought a few crystals before this. I never bought a crystal before, but before I started meditating, like around that same time, I walked into a store and a woman, she was standing there sort of in the front and she was holding this like copper ball and she was talking to her friend, but she would look me right in the eyes and she said, God, I really like the feel of this. I wish I could have this. And then she put it down and I'm like, did you say that? Like she looked me in the face, like she looked me right in the eyes and it was like I knew it was for me. And so I picked it up, bought it. I bought a couple other ones just on instinct, went home, put them on my body in the chakras. This is right before the Dr. Joe thing. And the one at the solar plexus was like a citrine and I just closed my eyes. I had done acupuncture, so I think that's why I got the idea to put them on my body. And the citrine on my stomach, on my solar plexus, started to vibrate and it cracked.
The stone, the crystal? Whoa.
Like not totally in half, but like a crack through it. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not a big crystal person, but that was like just this random, I got called into the store and this woman showed me this thing and I knew it was for me. I bought it, put these things on my body. And then that was probably my first instinct to meditate, but that I didn't realize. Anyway, so cut to a few years later after the Kundalini thing, I went to a bridal shower. I mean, like I said, I never put much faith in these kind of things, but things keep happening and coming to me. So I went to this bridal shower and there was a woman who it was like tarot, but it was crystals, like a crystal healer, I think she called herself. So, whatever, I participated and I sat down and I did remember I had that crystal that did something. And so, I sat down and you put out your hands and she puts different crystals in your hands. And eventually I guess there's one that like speaks to her and she's like, that one's yours. Right. So it was like a little, I think it's called an Amazonite. It's like a little sort of baby blue, looks like a little Easter egg, like a stone. And she put it in my hand. She's like, this is yours. And then she said a lot of stuff that resonated. She clearly had like an intuitive ability. And then she told me, you get to keep it. And she's like, put it under your pillow tonight when you go to sleep and it will help you. She just said like, it'll help you. I don't even remember like a specific thing, but I was like, okay, right. Can't hurt. And she seemed like cool and intuitive. And I'd already gone down a road at this point where I'm like, if
You're open
someone,
to it, right? You're like, all right, I've
right,
had some wild stuff happen, so sure,
like
let's.
I'm open to the signs. Like if something resonates, I'm like, okay, cool, right? So I take this little Easter egg looking stone home. And it's funny because I was wearing like a blue dress, and then later there was blue also. So I put it under my pillow and I was like, thanks, right? And I just went to sleep. And at some point, so I go to sleep vertical, like normal. And I also sleep with an eye mask. I have a very high ceilings and there's like a window up high that I never covered because it lets in sunlight and moonlight. But when I go to sleep, I put an eye mask. So I'm eye mask, whatever. So at some point, I'm awake and I'm like horizontal on top of the covers. And, I'm not really questioning it. I'm just like awake and I'm looking around the room and the room is exactly my room. It's not a dream. It is 100% my room. I mean, I know what my dreams are like and it's like, it's my room, but it doesn't look anything like my room. I'm in my room. I could feel the weight of my bed, like the weight of my body on the bed. I could feel like the duvet cover on my skin. And I am surrounded by a blue light. First I thought it was moonlight, because I have that window that lets in moonlight. But then I look at it and I'm like, it's blue. That can't be moonlight. And it felt like a present. It was like holding me. I was like being loved by this light. And similar to the Kundalini, I had this this feeling was like everything, even when I talk about it, I just felt my whole body relax. It's like, everything's fine. Everything's going to be okay. You're fine. It was just like, I had no doubt that everything was fine. Like I had gone to bed with like tightness in my jaw. Everything was relaxed. I was totally relaxed. And so I'm lying there and then I could see, when you see like dust particles in the light. So I could see like dust particles, except they weren't moving. They looked frozen. And I was like, I wonder if time has stopped. That's what I thought. And then I looked a little closer and I saw them vibrating a little bit. And I was like, well, maybe I'm like vibrating faster. And I started to think about these particles and wonder what was happening. And then all of a sudden I was standing up and I look and I see my body in the bed, tucked in, eye mask. And I was like, well, that's weird. I kept thinking, it wasn't even as much as I was surprised to see my body, but I couldn't figure out how I was looking out of my eyes when I'm wearing an eye mask, because I knew I was lying on the bed looking out of it felt just like this, eyelids, everything like good. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, how can I look out of my eyes? I kept asking that question. And then and then I was back in my body, back in the bed, and then up, awake. And I take the eye mask off and I was like, what? I mean, it was so real as this, everything when Darius talks about physical, I was like, I don't know what that was, but that wasn't a dream. What is going on? And I got up, I went to the bathroom. I could still feel that nice feeling stayed with me this time for 24 hours, the whole next day, that good, everything's okay. And yeah, and then, so for a long time I searched for answers because I was like, I don't know what that was. And then eventually I found Darius, and after listening to him, like you said, things sparked. First of all, that that physicality, I was like, yes, right? And the eyes, I could feel my eyeballs. I knew I was awakened in a body, right? And then when I saw my body in the bed, it's funny that part didn't freak me out as much as how come I can see? My eyes are covered. and so I don't know why that was such a fixation. Well, now I think anyways, the idea that really you're not seeing with your eyes as much as we think we are. But anyway, so I listened to Darius, and then I realized that I had some things leading up to, I had a sleep paralysis once where there was a being in the room, and I freaked out, woke myself up. And I had another experience actually in a Dr. Joe meditation, one of the more advanced blessing of the energy centers, where I felt like someone was pulling me out of my body, and I got freaked out because I thought I thought I was dying. It was extremely sort of painful or just like scary. And I remember like, I'm never doing that meditation again. Of course, now I've done it. I'm like, oh, maybe it'll bring on an out of body, but it hasn't. But, and then I've had a couple of experiences since. I don't know if you want me to tell those or have a
Sure.
question.
Okay. But how long ago was this? When did this happen?
This was, that first one, let's see, I think like 2 years-ish, something like that. It's a couple of years ago. It took me a
Okay.
while to find Darius. I only found him maybe a year ago or not quite a year. Yeah. Like
Okay.
I went looking and I did have other interesting things happen like in the search too. I
Talk
don't
about it.
know.
Let's hear it.
So when I kept sort of, I just knew there was like this blue light. I kept calling it the blue light experience because I didn't know what else to call it. And eventually I found have you heard of Bashar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
by Daryl. He
Daryl
channels for sure.
Anka. Yeah. So I had listened to some channeling stuff and somehow I found his stuff and I started listening and I went to one live event and I like some woman asked him, she said something about like, thank you for the blue light meditation. And I was like, oh, maybe that's for me, right? So I happened to, at that event, I sat next to a guy who was like Bashar's #1 fan who knew like it was like, there's totally meant to be because I heard that and I turned to him, I'm like, do you know what you're talking about? And it was something from like 40 years ago or something, like one of the first channeled things he ever did. And this guy knew. He was like, yeah. And he showed me where to go and like how to get, I mean, it's no coincidence that I was sitting next to that guy because who else would know? Like he knew like everything that Bachar's ever done. So I found it was like this old like guided meditation. And so one night I did this meditation hoping to like connect back to this experience, right? And the power was out in my place. So there's no clock, there's no wall clock, but I have my computer, which is a Mac and an iPhone. And there, the clocks always match. And I put so I did the meditation, I downloaded it onto my computer, put my phone in the closet, like on silent, so it wouldn't bother me. And I sat down, I did this meditation. It's a cool meditation. It wasn't, necessarily connected to out of body, but, you kind of surround yourself with this blue light, sort of reform, it's a healing meditation, I suppose. But it was so powerful. I got really into it. About halfway through, there was like a boom. Like it felt like someone, like maybe a car drove into the house, right? It was like this jolt. I was like, what was that? So I put it on pause. I get up. Nothing's different. I'm like, okay, whatever. I get right back into the meditation. Now I think it was like maybe a little bit of an out of body because I went right back into the meditation, no problem. It was like kind of a weird, jolting thing. Anyway, so the meditation, when it ends, I'm thinking, wow, that seemed longer. Like it was marked at an hour, but I thought that's longer than an hour, It was so enriching. It was really good. And so it's like, okay, whatever. I look at my clock. The clock on my computer says 10:30 p.m. Like, okay, it's time to get to bed. I get up, get my phone. My phone says 10 p.m. And I was like, and I don't have a clock now because the power's out. And I was like, I don't know what time it is. Is my computer right? And I'd never seen them, they're synced together. They both
Yeah,
sync
always.
to the same, right? And I was like, so I Google, and they're sharing a hotspot. Like not only that, they're really like talking to each other because I don't have Wi-Fi, so because of power. So I Google what time is it in Los Angeles, and then Google matches my phone, and then all of a sudden I look at the computer, it matches my phone. And I was like, and after that, it started to happen to me all the time where even like the wall clock would say one time, the computer say a different time, the phone would say a different time. And then it'd be like, I don't know what time it is. And then it would like all sync up to one time. And that I actually have a picture. I have a little bit of evidence. We talked about like evidence.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, am I going crazy? What is going on? So one day I took a picture of my computer with my phone, and you could see because you could see the timestamp on the phone and you could see the screen of the computer. And it was like the phone said like 1:56 or something. The computer said like 2:25. And then I took the picture and then they both said like 1:57, so you could see. And I just thought that was really interesting. it seemed to be like sometimes it was never like, oh, they're just like a minute off, or, I Googled like, did the phone, like what happened? Like, does this happen to anybody else? And the only thing I could find was people that have, like a consistent like minute off and then maybe a battery dies or something. But that didn't happen. It was like, sometimes it's 2 hours ahead, sometimes it's 5 minutes behind. So like,
Weird.
yeah. And I thought I do automatic writing now, and I did write about that. And what came through was that you can choose the time you want. You think you can't. Like there was one time when it was earlier, what the one device showed earlier, and I wanted it to be earlier. But then they synced back up to the like later time. And it was like, you think you can't have like you can't go back or something, but it's not like that. You can just choose the timeline you want to be on. And it's like, you're not letting yourself just go with it. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
How cool. It's like a lesson for you on time, right? And time is not real. And so it was like trying to show you that.
It's a tool that we can use. Like if you wanted it to be earlier, then you just focus yourself into like an earlier time. But we're so used to keeping a schedule. Although to be fair, like I don't keep much of a schedule. So I think also a lot of this stuff happens to me because I exist a little bit outside of like what regular people are doing. But anyways, that was something that, I mean, totally aside, I don't know if it'll be relevant for you, but I just thought it was interesting because that was the first thing where I tried to connect to the blue light. And I think I did have a tiny bit of an out of body during that meditation. Now that I've had other out of bodies where I'm trying to get out on purpose, like we talked about, where like things are shaking and stuff, because that jolt, I think that was definitely like a little vibrational shift. And then when I found Darius, I haven't been as diligent. It's like you said, it's like
With a process.
it's a process. Yeah. And so the couple experiences I've had, I, like you, I do the thing where it's in a dream, I tell myself I'm dreaming. So the couple times that I've done it, go to sleep, tell myself before I go to sleep, hey, I want to have an out of body. And like, either
Set the
sometimes
intention.
yeah, I set the intention. Sometimes you would tell like the difference between when I really mean it, because it's like a process. So I tell myself, so the couple times, so I told myself, I want to have an out of body. And like the first time it happened that way, I was in a dream and everything was fuzzy and I could see a clock, actually, like a digital clock, and it was perfectly in focus and nothing else was in focus. And I looked at it and I'm like, this doesn't belong here. Something's different. And then I was like, ooh, I think I'm dreaming. So I started to focus on it. Then I came back into my body. Again, that I know I'm sleeping with an eye mask. My eyes, I can feel my eyeballs. The eyes are open. And so I had asked too that night, I said, if there's any benevolent being that could help me, like pull me out or something. Because I heard on Darius's group, like people have talked about that, asking for help. So I asked for help. So I realized I'm dreaming it. Now I'm in my body. I feel like my eyes are open and my body, it feels like someone's pushing my body. My body's just moving. And it does feel like someone is pushing. It's moving. I'm not moving it. It feels like it's moving independent. And then I'm like, oh, it's happening, right? And I get really excited. And then all of a sudden I see, like you said, like I see these swirling colors. So a lot of times in the Dr. Joe meditation, I would reach sort of like a different brain, what you could feel like when you sort of shift states. And I would see these geometric shapes. And it was always like sort of a black background and like blue. They were like dots in patterns, almost like a starry sky, except very clear patterns. And I always thought, there's got to be something like, am I supposed to do something? But nothing would ever happen. It would just be like still. But in this experience, all of a sudden I could see those patterns and instantly they lit up. They were all kinds of like vibrant colors. They started swirling, like my whole room became like a swirling geometric pink, blue, yellow, like fluorescent. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I got so excited that I just stopped. Like, I forgot about the part where you're like, gotta get out, right? And so, cause I'm like, it's happening. And then all of a sudden everything stopped. And I was like, shit, I was supposed to move. I was supposed to like, that was like probably my portal,
It was
right?
your moment. Yeah. I love it. The reason too for everyone listening why we don't just share the process. Number one, I don't know if I remember it fully. Because I need to rewatch some stuff. Number two, it's kind of rude just to like release his stuff. I mean, I don't have a problem with someone paying. Like, I don't have a lot of people have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that for some reason. Like, he's offering something that I didn't know how to do, and he's got to make a living on Earth. So I'm kind of cool with it, but some people have real beef with that for some reason. And I'm not just
Yeah.
going to share the man's process. So I'm sorry. You guys can get all upset, but it's just is what it is.
I'm with
Um,
you. Like he has years of information. Nobody gives that away. Like if you went to medical school, you don't have a problem paying the doctor,
right. So
right?
I'm trying to say people have problems with that, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
Wow. Okay. So you're kind of where I am, sort of. You've had a lot more experiences than I have, but you're kind of back on the train where you're like, okay, you're trying to do it. But like you said, it is a process. And by what we mean by that is like sometimes it's hours. He talks about like it could take 3 hours to get into that state. So
Yeah.
that's what we mean by it's a process. It's like I have little kids. I can't just like every night sit down for 3 hours and try and make this happen. So,
Yeah. Well, I had a couple other, I'll really fast because so that time, and then like a week or two later, I tried it again where I said, I want to come out. Same thing where I wake up in a dream and actually saw another version of myself. And she looked kind of nefarious. And I was like, I looking at her and I was like, I know what this is. And I went to like grab her. I think I wanted to see if she was like, I wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah.
touch her because I didn't know, what am I doing? But I know I'm not like quite asleep. And so at that point, I went to grab her. And it's funny because I wake up in paralysis, except my arm is out, like from grabbing, and the whole room is shaky. It's like an earthquake. And I even looked up afterwards, like, was there an earthquake? Because I was like, the
yeah. What
whole
is that?
room, the walls, like everything. When you switch frequencies, and so everything can be wild, right? So I had that, and that time I pushed too hard. I was like, this is it, I'm getting out. And I was like really amped up, and I tried to move my body so much that I woke my body up. And then the last time that I'll share, like I had watched some of Darius's testimonials, like one video where this guy talked for like an hour. He had a lot of stories, and I watched that right before bed. And I think that, like, if you want to have these experiences, watch people talk about it because I think that'll spark it. So I watched it before bed, went to sleep. And then same thing where I had a dream, like I was in my gallery and there was like a hair sort of hanging vertical. And I was like, this isn't right. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm dreaming. I can have an out of body. And this time back in my body. And all of a sudden it wasn't like that sort of, it wasn't difficult. I just flowed, like just sort of like, I could feel the body sort of unlock. And this time I actually stepped out, like, because I was like, is this happening? And I had like one foot, then the other foot, and then I could hear something say yes. And so I went, yes, okay. And I got really excited, really happy. Like he talks about if you're too afraid or too excited. So, but I started to get so excited. And then I was like, I wanted to look back. I was like, don't look back because you'll wake up. So I started to walk and I could feel when he talks about like the electromagnetic pull. It was so strong. I got down on the floor and I started crawling and like hanging onto the floor. And I'm like, don't look back. And I'm just like, and that was it. It just sucked me back in. I was too excited. I was so happy. I almost made it to the door, but I didn't.
It's a weird thing, and it's hard to explain to people. So I more lean towards I get scared for some reason. I don't know why. It's like something I have to work through. You get
Yeah.
excited, but I remember when he was saying that. It's like, and I remember when the vibration started for me. Like you said, it was so strong, and you're aware. So like it's happening, and you're like, oh, like I remember I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's real. It's happening. There's like this moment where you go again from watching these videos to like, oh my gosh, they're telling the truth. And then I think what was interesting to me is when I popped out, I was still me. I was still me.
Yeah.
Like I was still like, you think kind of you leave that person behind and you're like no, I was still me, like still silly old me, like, I don't know. That part was interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like when I got on the floor and started crawling, I was like laughing. When I woke up from that, I was laughing
It's
hysterically. I was
funny the
like,
things you do, right? Like it's funny. It is
I was like
funny.
holding, because there was nothing to hold on to but floor, which you can't really hold on. And people ask, I think, again, if you haven't had the experience, when people are like, what do you mean you were holding on because your body's in the bed? But it's like you really are in a body. There, I
Hmm.
could feel the floor, my feet, like everything is so tactile that it sounds weird or wrong or something, but it's not like you really have a body. You really
There's
are
physicality
touching
to it.
things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that pull, it was like, you're going to get back in here. Like it was not letting me go. But yeah, I get really excited. But when I had the sleep paralysis the first time, I didn't know what was going on. And I was terrified because I could hear something in the room and it called my
Oh,
name.
that would not be cool
And
for
I
me.
was
I'd be like,
like,
dude, stop. Go away.
I literally, I was at an Airbnb in like in a mountain, like all by myself. And I was thinking
Not
I
cool.
was having
I
a
couldn't do
nice
it.
time. Oh yeah. And then all of a sudden I wake up and I can't move. And again, the room is the room and I can't move. And I could hear someone, it sounds like someone is entering the place. They walk in and I can feel them like reach out and they're like, Brooke. And I was like, and then I slept with like all the lights on. Like I was like, oh my God, what did I
That's
do?
scary.
Yeah, it was
It
terrifying.
is a little terrifying. It is. Maybe not for some people, but it is for me. And it
That
is,
was terrifying. But since I know now what it is, now I'm excited. And I don't have a fear. Like you said, you were raised Catholic, Christian?
Christian. Hmm.
So you probably, I wasn't really, I was raised Jewish. So I wasn't, we don't believe in like hell
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I'm not, and I wasn't very religious growing up and I'm not religious now. So I never really got into like an idea that there was like hell or demons.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of people that are like Christian, Catholic, that's like a
Yes.
big part of it, right? Is
Yes.
like
You're
hell
taught
and
that it's evil.
Satan.
That says like, yeah, this is like
Yeah.
satanic stuff happening. So I think there's definitely a little bit of that. Um, I don't know. I've done so much since then, and like I said, I really haven't had a time to like try this again because I've had kids and they're still young, and I'm getting close to doing this again. But um, I'm super excited for you. I hope you pop out tonight. Like I'm excited. I hope you continue on your journey.
Well, I hope
Thank
we
you.
both pop out. I mean,
I
I
would
hope
love
you
to.
pop out with that blue light that surrounded me, because that was like super
That
pleasant. Like
sounds
if
awesome.
ask for like a cosmic sedative.
Yeah, I'm with it. I'm gonna hit you up on the side. I would love to get have you send over those meditations. I would love to like the Joe Dispenza ones.
Yeah.
I'll try some of those. I've veered away from guided stuff, but I think I need to try some guided stuff. I've heard a lot of people who've had success with it, so
Yeah.
I would love to
I
do
would
that.
recommend checking out too his lectures and things where he
Okay,
talks about like how your brain and body work together. I think for me it's helpful to understand the mechanics of it because it's not
definitely.
as mystic or it's not as mysterious as we make it out to be.
Yeah, there's a yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Brooke, what I love about your story, and I thank you for coming on. What I love about it is that you are truly authentic. You can tell you're not making this up. And I think more people need to hear stories like yours, where you're not like, I don't know, you don't live in your van and like just you're just. There's a stigma I think to sometimes this stuff that I think
Hmm.
people need to understand. This is everyday people like me. I have a job. I have kids. I have a wife. Like you're an artist. You're a normal person. You weren't thinking about this stuff, and it happened to you, and you didn't even know the terms for it. And so again, if you're watching this, it's real. I don't know what else to tell you. It's real.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. Really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I would say it's just start believing it's happening to you. I think it's happening, but what happens is people don't believe it. They don't believe themselves or they
Hmm.
believe the outside more. So when things start happening, just let yourself notice and let yourself believe it, and then more will happen.
Yeah, and let's be real. If you're watching this video, you're curious. Don't lie to
Yeah.
yourself. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, okay. Well, thank you again. I love just the way you told it. I just liked it. I think that's really important. I think people will relate to how you told it. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully it'll help someone on their journey,
It definitely
right?
will.
And we can all, the more people wake up, the more I think the collective, the more it happens, the easier it gets to believe it and experience it for everybody.
For sure. Are you running a YouTube now? Like, do you have a channel? Is there anywhere you want me to direct people? Do you have a website?
Yeah.
Like, I'll link it
Yeah,
all
well, I
below.
have, thanks. I have a YouTube. It's Brooke Weiland. I don't know if do you link to
I'll
or,
tag it. I'll link it. Yeah, I'll put
okay.
everything in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my name, Brooke Weiland. And I just talk about these stories, like when stuff happens. I've had all kinds of things happen and healing, like natural, like really just thinking yourself into or communicating with your body. So I have a YouTube where I just talk about my regular, my regular, not so regular experiences. And if you're interested in artwork, I have a website, brookeweiland.com. It's also on the YouTube, like it's linked to there. And the artwork, I think, it's just being in the moment. My whole thing is like being in the moment and enjoying what's right in front of you. And I think that state gets you to these experiences. Because I know when I take pictures, a lot of times I do have an experience of like sort of losing time and space. Like all of a sudden, I'm just nowhere, and then it all comes back. It's kind of an interesting experience. So, but I think whatever you do in your day-to-day life that gets you in that kind of zone, everybody has something. I always try to remind people of that. That's our power. That's where the power is, right? Power of
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. Being
Yeah.
present. It's all here. There's no past. There's no future. It's all right now. So.
It's all right now.
All right, Brooke. Well, thank you so much. I would love to have you on. If you pop out and you're doing it consistently, we're bringing you back and we're going to talk
Okay,
about your
I'll let you
journeys.
know.
So excited
I
about it.
would love that.
We'll do it. All right. Well, I will let you know when this goes live. Yeah. Hope you have an awesome weekend. Cheers.
Thanks, you too. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.